Okay, so welcome everybody. This is our clean energy lunch and learn, controlling and reducing energy costs. Our presenter today is Ron Kamen, who's the founder and principal of Starfire.net Inc., which DBA, Earthkind Energy Consulting. It's a 25-year-old New York State company who represents property owners in clean energy transformations that secure government and utility incentives, reduce capital and operating costs, increase profitability, lower carbon footprints from electricity, heating, cooling, and transportation. He has created clean energy policies, programs, and projects for tens of thousands of homeowners and small businesses, Fortune 1000 corporations, schools, colleges, and governmental organizations for more than 30 years. He's also currently directs the Business Council of Westchester's Clean Energy Action Coalition, which works with over 115 Westchester businesses, government, and nonprofit leaders to reduce energy costs and improve energy resilience and reliability. I'm very thankful that he's offered to do this for everybody, and I'm sure you're going to pick up some valuable information for your business. Ron, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Shari. Thank you especially to the Westchester County Economic Development for all the great work you guys do. I'm going to go through a bunch of things here and give you guys a lot of information. Some of it will be immediately applicable to your particular situation. Others of it will give you a sense of where the Business Council is coming from and what we're striving to do with this whole project. But feel free to drop questions maybe in the chat. Is there a chat? I'm not even sure if there is a chat on this forum, Shari. Yes?
Yes, there's a chat, and I'll be monitoring it.
Okay, great. So if you can drop questions into the chat, but then also you're going to find different opportunities if you have either the ability to take a picture, there'll be some QR codes that'll take you to different pieces, or you can type in, you'll see some short URLs that you can type in for some additional information. And then if you really want to drill into any particular aspect of what I cover, that's what some of those links will do, and I'll point them out to you, and you can find out a lot more. So real quickly, what we're going to talk about are a lot of different pieces. I'm going to talk a little bit about Sam of Gedney's Way and the dramatic reductions that they had. We're going to show you a short video of that as well, and then we'll take you to the longer video. You can find that later. And then we got a number of different energy saving opportunities for you, ways to reduce costs, 5 to 20% with some HVAC maintenance and a free guide that's available if you guys are interested in that aspect of it. We're going to talk about the Westchester Clean Energy Action Coalition, who we are, where we're coming from, what's going on with energy in Westchester, what does it mean to you, and some things that we actually need everyone to pay attention to. And then we're going to talk about different programs that are out there that you can take advantage of that can give you outstanding returns on your investments, for everything from Con Ed and NYSERDA through peak demand reduction opportunities, community solar opportunities, energy service company, competitive supply opportunities, some ability to do things on site with solar. What does that look like? Battery energy storage opportunities, some case studies of who's making what kind of revenues off of these things, some timelines of things to keep in mind if you're looking at solar, and then another opportunity called renewable diesel, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So without further ado, we'll get quickly into this. And in particular, Shari, just let me know if you can hear the piece of this. This is Sam's of Gedney Way. We're just going to start off with this. You can hear that? Okay. This is Pete Herrero from Sam's.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter Herrera. I'm the founder and president of New York Hospitality Group. We are barbecue to black tie events and hospitality consulting. I am so happy and proud to be here today to be talking about energy conservation as an entrepreneur and capitalist. I know, those three words don't go together, but our base is Sam's of Gedney Way here in White Plains. It's a 4-story building, 14,000 square feet, 4 kitchens, 3 dining rooms, 2 bars, 2 sets of offices. 9 years ago, we got involved with Con Ed's rebate and smart energy initiative, and they helped us tremendously. Our bills 9 years ago were over $175,000. Last year, I say this with a smile on my face, was $95,000. It's amazing. You always need negative airflow in the kitchen because of smells and one thing or another. But the problem is restaurateurs don't realize all that negative air that gets taken out of the exhaust air comes out of the air quality of your restaurant or dining rooms.
So there, this video goes on for like 5 minutes. I don't want to take up this workshop, but if you'd like to see the rest of Peter's really funny, interesting, entertaining, and simultaneously educational piece about what they did at Sam's of Gedney Way to reduce their cost from $175,000 down to $95,000, even with rate increases, even increasing the amount of business that they do, just take a look. You can take a picture of that QR code. That'll take you to the video, or you can type in tinyurl.com/Sam's Energy Savings, and you can watch the entire video. It really is educational and enlightening. If you want to do something else, just to give you a sense, one of the things that we've done now with Peter is put together a free maintenance HVAC guide that can save somewhere between 5%, 20% or better. It goes into all the different things you can do with your HVAC system. This is a couple of the list of some of the things. Goes into people who have kitchens like Sam's does, talks about the kitchen equipment, talks about lighting, building envelope, water systems, appliance and other equipment, monitoring and controls. And in a moment, I'm going to give you the QR code for a survey, or you can email me, Ron, at ron.kamen@earthkindenergy.com, and we'll send you off this free maintenance guide of things that you can do. Some very simple things, some more complicated things. As Peter said, he took advantage, and we'll talk about those programs that he took advantage of. But if you want that, I'm going to show this slide a few different times during the webinar. Just click on that QR code or type in tinyurl Chamber Energy Savings Response, and there's a whole list of the different opportunities of things to see and watch, and just let us know what you're most interested in, and we'll follow up. We'll give you that guide or whatever else you'd like. So on to the next thing. So as Shari mentioned, the Clean Energy Action Coalition is now 115 different individuals from all these different organizations. The one up top are sponsoring us in a significant way. The ones on the bottom are all participating in some way, shape, or fashion. And what our goal is to reduce energy costs and make sure that on in Westchester. We'll talk about what's happening and why that's really important in a moment. But some thoughts to frame the discussion, just as you guys think about energy. One of the things that we consistently talk about is a reliable and affordable power system. We need reliable because without that, we can't do business, we can't go to school, we can't do anything, right, without a reliable power system. And then it has to be affordable. And those of us who are struggling right now with energy costs understand that rate increases are going up dramatically. The least cost energy is that which we don't use. And I'm going to show you a couple of different opportunities of how to reduce that energy cost very dramatically, very specifically, without doing too much. The second piece, though, that I want to make clear is that the cheapest source of electricity in New York State today, and it's cheaper by far, by 60, 70% cheaper than anything else, and that was from our investment last century as a state in renewable energy and specifically in hydropower. And the reason why that's really important is because when we own and maintain the renewable energy infrastructure, what happens is with hydropower, the water flows. With wind energy, the wind blows. With solar energy, the sun shines, and we get fuel-free, inexpensive power. And keep that in mind as you're thinking about all the different options that we're going to go through today, that when you can control and own your energy source, you can then have long-term savings, immediate and long-term. That's what we did with hydropower in the state last century. That's what we need to do now, especially in Westchester with solar energy. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Air source heat pumps, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but basically air source heat pumps are just air conditioners that do that same compression and expansion process, but during the winter, they flip that process around, and those condensers, those compressors outside, then take heat out of the air, and that gives you efficiency of 200 to 300%. Any fossil fuel is always less than 100% efficient, so no matter how efficient your boiler is, if you're burning gas or oil or whatever else, it's always less than 100%, but with air source heat pumps, it's 200 to 300%, and if you want to know more, we can follow up with that later. Geothermal heating and cooling, that's the heat beneath our feet because the temperature in this part of the world is always at 50 degrees or better. You can grab that heat from underneath the earth with geothermal. That gives you 400 to 600% efficiency, which is just why many people do it. And then one of the things we're also going to talk about is renewable diesel. And renewable diesel is basically exactly the same as diesel. It's not just a biofuel like biodiesel is. It's renewable diesel. It's refined to a greater degree, and you can drop it in as a drop-in fuel for any diesel application, any diesel transport. You don't have to change the engines. You don't have to change your tanks, any blend, any percentage. And you can do the same with this renewable diesel with oil heat. We'll talk about that, why that's expensive. And the basic thing that the BCW keeps asking is, look, if we don't put in place these clean energy infrastructure, if we don't put in place this electricity infrastructure and deal with these issues, what's our plan B? I'll show you why that's going to be really important in a moment. All right, so first, Con Edison, as you heard from Peter, has many different programs out there, as does NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. There's residential programs, there's multifamily programs, there's small business and nonprofit programs, there's commercial programs. And part of what we have as part of this is you can click on these links when we send you out the PowerPoint, and you can access those programs. We'll talk to you about how else you can do it. In the piece that we'll share with you with the URL, you'll find out that there's opportunities and possibilities for any kind of business that's out there, any nonprofit, anybody that's got an energy expense. There's a program here that can help you reduce those costs. Small business programs, especially lucrative for those in the small business areas, but then there's all different sizes, no matter whether you're a nonprofit, a school, a for-profit, a larger entity, a smaller entity, and we can help you get access to some of that information as well. Give you a sense of what's covered. It's everything from heating, ventilation, and cooling costs, hot water systems, refrigeration, building envelope, energy management systems, heat pumps, basically a whole host of incentives that are out there that if you need to do any of this work, you should absolutely take advantage of it. We are all paying into the state system. The system benefit charge is what's on all our bills, or most of our bills, except for certain entities. And so these programs are there. You've already helped pay for them, and you should take advantage of them if you need to do any capital improvements or any sort of efficiency improvements. And again, you could take a look. We'll send you this piece. There's a piece on the program, participating contractors, clean heat program, various different ones that are out there for Con Edison. And then similar, there's technical assistance from NYSERDA. And if you're not taking advantage of these programs, just again, fill out that QR code or send us a note or type in this URL in just a second. Again, tidyurl.com, Chamber Energy Savings Response. Just fill out that form. We'll send you information about these programs, and we'll connect you with people that can help you start saving money and on your bills. All right, to give you a sense of why the Business Council is involved with this, as we all know, electric demand is growing, and I don't know if your folks know, but electric consumption in Con Ed territory is up 20% in the last 10 years. 4 of the top 10 electric peak loads of all time in Con Ed territory happened this summer, and the highest peak ever in June happened this year as well. When you take a look at what does that mean, it means overall across the state, beyond Con Ed, in every territory, we're reaching the electric capacity. And what does that mean? It means that reliability is starting to become a concern. In May of last year, the guys who run the grid, the independent system operator, came out and said, well, accounting for certain factors, we're okay. We got enough energy. And then that little piece that I just put up, reliability concerns persist under extreme weather scenarios, that little piece hit us because, hey, you know what? It starts to get hot. And when you take a look at what they were saying about extreme weather scenarios, the reliability margins were very tight. As a matter of fact, they were in the negative. If we hit a 3-day heat wave or more, it was down 1,000 megawatts across the state, and it was almost 3,000 megawatts if the heat wave went on for a while. Give you a sense, what's 1,000 megawatts, 2,000, 3,000 megawatts. The Indian Point nuclear power plant is 2,000 megawatts, just to give you a sense of size and capacity. So we were going to be short half of an Indian Point power plant this summer, which we were short, and I'll tell you how we pulled it out in a moment. But basically, it's like this is a real concern. And again, when you have no power, you can't turn on your lights, you can't go to work, you can't go to school, you can't function. We absolutely need a reliable energy system. And so making sure we have enough capacity is key. And that's why the Business Council is very involved in this whole thing. And then in October, the independent system operator that runs the grid came out with this additional report and said, oh, yeah, well, we were lucky to get by in the summer, but now what we're seeing is between the aging of the existing generation fleet, the rapid growth of large load, the increasing difficulty of new supply, now we're in violation of state law and of state capacity pieces, and we have to address this. So it's now become a critical issue for the state and for all of us to figure out what we can do to save ourselves money and to save ourselves energy and to keep the grid up during these peak times especially, but all the time to make it reliable. And there's things that we're going to show you that you can do that will have an impact on your bills and simultaneously help to keep the lights on. So what does this mean? Well, one of the things it means is that we see more power outages. And though we didn't have a massive blackout this summer, we saw isolated incidents all throughout the summer of various different people that did lose power for some amount of time. You've been in that situation, you know it's never a fun thing, especially if your refrigerator goes out or your freezer goes out and you start losing food and all those other aspects of things that happen when you have a blackout. And simultaneously, it's not just the summer. It's like it's happening all different times of the year now. It kept happening on and off in different places in October. This is a real issue. It's an issue of concern for all of us. It's something that we have to deal with. And the good part about that, well, let me get to the good part in a moment, but one of the other things that adds to the challenge are these increasing amounts of extreme weather events, more intense, lasting longer, having big impacts. When you take a look across the country, it's massive. It's hundreds of billions of dollars a year. It's been trillions of dollars over the last 10 or 15 years. It's only going to get worse. So we need to be prepared for these extreme weather events and do what we can to deal with it. We take a look at Westchester. It was particularly noticeable this summer when in June we had severe flooding. In July, we had more flooding. In July, the end of the month, the governor was asking everyone, it's a state of emergency, to prepare for the rainfall and get set. We saw flooding happening all over the county and all over the region. Saw large sections of the Sprain, the Taconic, the Bronx River, and the Sawmill Parkways shut down from flash floods. And then last month, in September, we saw a sinkhole opening up under the sawmill. And these extreme weather events are only going to have more and more impact on us and affect our daily life and our ability to go to work, our ability to send our kids to school, our ability just to get around and do anything. So we have to keep in mind, what does it mean to have these extreme weather events? What's the impact and what can we do about them? Simultaneously, those heat during the summers are just getting worse, more intense. Air quality is getting worse. That means people are having respiratory issues and other things that are a concern. And part of it is that when we have this extreme heat or even extreme cold, we now have peak demands that we have to reach. And the reason why those peak demands are there is because when we have those peaks, we have to have enough electricity going into the grid to make sure we all get our share. So those peaks become especially critical during summers. It's going to get even more important now during the winters too. But basically, one of the things we've seen in New York is that there are peaker plants that we were planning to take offline or that we did take offline that were only going like a day or two a year. But because we needed them to stick around, we now see more energy coming from fossil fuel plants that we thought we were going to get rid of that we can't now because we desperately need that energy. So what do we do? Well, one of the things that California has done, which we want to emulate in New York, is California has something called a demand response program where they took 100,000 homes that had batteries, and by pulling those batteries to discharge into the grid at the same time, they developed a virtual power plant. So 100,000 small distributed energy resources, distributed batteries, they brought them all together. And the result in California was 535 megawatts worth of power that came from individuals just contributing a little bit of power from those batteries that people had in their homes. That's a quarter of the size of Indian Point. It's dramatic. It pulled California out of their issues. And the thing that was fascinating to me and might be interesting to you too, is that in Con Ed territory, we had 100,000 customers who signed up in Con Ed territory. That peak reduction programs in Con Ed territory was 1,000 megawatts, half of the Indian Point nuclear power plant, from demand response, from people just doing things to reduce their energy consumption a little bit. But those demand response programs have been key to keeping our lights on and keeping the electric grid up and running during these peak times. When you take a look at what we can all do, how to get some money out of this, well, it's called peak reduction. In Westchester, there's something called the Con Edison Grid Rewards Program. And you can find out about it from Sustainable Westchester. They run the Grid Rewards Program. That gives you a 3 to 15% savings on your bill. Everyone should sign up for this. It's really simple. It's really easy. Residential customers, basically, you increase your thermostat a couple degrees. They just adjust your thermostat with a smart thermostat a couple degrees. That gives you a cash payment. Average residential customer gets $80. But when you're a small business or a larger business, larger commercial users participating in these programs can make as much as $70,000, sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less. But all these programs are available. They're easy, simple things to do. You just sign up, doesn't cost you any money. And basically, with a little bit of participation, again, we had half the Indian Point nuclear power plant supplied by people just reducing their demand a little bit in these peak reduction programs. The peak reduction is key. This is a way for you to save some money on your bills and get a check from the utility company. Again, I'm going to go through this slide a bunch of different times. You can find out about this and other information just by clicking on this QR code or going to Chamber Energy Savings Response via tinyurl.com. There's all these different programs will be listed there. Let us know which one you're most interested in, and we'll save you more information about it. All right, another way to save money really quickly, and it's something called community solar. In the community solar program, what happens is that there's a solar plant somewhere in the utility territory. It feeds into the grid. People who sign up for that program then get a discount on their utility bills. In the average, it's 5 to 10%. It's pretty simple. It's easy now. It's relatively straightforward. It just comes as a credit on your bill. If you're not signed up for a community solar program, you should sign up. And in NYSEG territory, right now, today, there's still capacity. That's 5 to 10% savings just by signing up if you're a NYSEG customer. If you're in Con Ed territory, unfortunately, the program's been sold out. We need more solar generation for community solar in the Con Ed program. I'm going to urge you to talk to your municipality to get them to get more community solar in your community so that everyone can get some of these benefits, because 5 to 10%, who couldn't use that, especially given the rate increases that are going on today. And we're going to talk about how you could do that in a moment. All right, another way to save money right away is something called Energy Service Companies Competitive Supply. So on your bill, Con Ed or NYSEG delivers that energy to you. They're the delivery company. But then you could choose your supplier. And it gets very complicated and convoluted, and there's been all these scams out there, and people are rightly upset. Sometimes they've been paying more than they should. Sometimes they got messed up from the particular company that they went with. Who to do, who to go with, who's the right choice for your particular situation. So one of the things we've got is we have the ability to work with you to put your particular energy profile out, get bids to come back, and work with you to identify what's the right solution for your particular situation. So what's the right energy supply product for you is one of the things that we can offer you. There's options. One option is fixed. So basically you get a fixed price. It doesn't change. You have budget certainty. You know what that price is going to be for the next year or 2 years or 3 years. We lock it in. Everything's locked. Another option is some of it is locked, but then certain pieces are exposed to the market. In this particular case, the capacity pass-through. What does that mean? We can go into it with you. How does it adjust everything else? But that's this part of the bill. When you take a look, there's another option, fixed on the energy piece only. Gets confusing, right? And then another piece is you're exposed to the market and you're going up and down as the market goes, but you still get a little piece off of it. So even though you're in the market and you're subject to the variations in the market, you're still saving a little bit off of it. For some people, that's the way they would prefer to go. Others are like, no, I've seen prices double in a particular period of time. I don't want that option. I want a fixed price all year round, and then everything in the middle. And we can help you put out your particular situation to these energy service companies, come back with options, work with you to identify what option best meets your goal. So let us know if that's something that you'd be interested in. Again, you can pull on this slide, go to that URL, and let us know that that's what you're interested in. We'll send you information about that piece. Next up, all right, so New York State has something called the Climate Law, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, the CLCPA. What you might have heard about that is that basically we're aiming to have a perfect solution of electrifying everything. That means getting our electricity from clean energy sources, doing everything with new homes, with passive home construction, doing energy efficiency upgrades, heat pumps, especially geothermal, electric vehicles, and virtual power plants, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So this is the perfect solution where we want to head to. And until we get there, one of the things we also need to keep in mind is that right now we need to bring transmission into our territory, usually from upstate hydro and or solar and wind from upstate New York, bring it in. But we have to support these transmission lines because without them right now, we don't have the ability to deliver all the energy that we need and that we consume every day. So all these aspects are really important, really key. However, when you take a look at the goals, New York State has 2030 goals of 70% of the electricity coming from renewable energy and reducing our emissions by 40%. But energy use is rising. We've got more people using more energy for everything from our cell phones and laptops through all our associated equipment, especially AI and computing equipment. And take a look at the results, even though we've had these goals, is actually emissions are going up. And it's gone up 8% since the pandemic. And clean energy, the generation's just not keeping up. We have to do more, we have to do faster, and it's just not keeping up right now. So what does that mean? The bad news is at the end of 2024, we were 74% short of the emissions goal. We're 79% short of the offshore wind goal. And given the federal administration right now, we're probably never hitting that offshore wind goal, which was going to be 9,000 megawatts worth of capacity. Again, 4.5 times the capacity of Indian Point, just to give you some piece of that. So that's probably not happening. And then we're short on the energy storage goal as well. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We'll talk about that. But the better news is that at the end of 2024, we were only 24% short of the renewable energy target for 2030. So we're getting there. We're getting pretty close. At the end of 2024, we were actually only a little bit short of the distributed solar target. And actually, just after the beginning of this year, we passed the solar target. So we passed that 10,000 megawatts, 5 Indian Points capacity. We passed that 10,000 megawatts, and now we're increasing as a state the goal to 20,000 megawatts because solar is the fastest way that we can get new generation into the grid, and it's also got the best long-term profile for saving us money in the long term. In Westchester, as we mentioned, we have this challenge. We took off 2,000 megawatts worth of the Indian Point power plant. 2,000 megawatts is a lot of power, as we saw. But what does that mean? How does that compare to what we use? Where are we at? And one of the things the Clean Energy Action Coalition has done with our groups is focused in, and we've identified now the electric consumption for every municipality in Westchester. How much energy is being consumed by each municipality, how much electricity your municipality needs to keep the lights on. And when you take a look all together, that winds up being 5.44 billion kilowatt hours a year. And if we wanted that all to come for solar, let's just say that would be 4,300 megawatts of solar capacity, or basically about 2 Indian Points worth of solar capacity that we need to get into the grid to be able to supply 100% of our electricity needs. Obviously, we're not going to get there tomorrow, but can we start making inroads on that? And that's part of what we're going to talk about in a moment. In Westchester right now, we've got to get to 4,300 megawatts to have 100%. We're at 260. We've got it dead. We're starting to get there with 5%, but now we have to dramatically increase that amount of adoption and accelerate that piece to be able to get to where we go. The good part is that the cost of solar and battery storage has come down so dramatically now that when you take a look across the world, solar and battery storage is the cheapest form of new energy that's out there. when you take a look, even without any incentives, and you finance it right and you structure it right and you don't deal with too many roadblocks in your way, renewables are both the lowest cost and the quickest to deploy energy source. To build a new nuclear power plant, it's 15 to 20 years. To build a new gas plant, it's 10 to 15 years. To build a solar power plant, it's a year or two, depending upon your situation. So it's a fast way of getting more electricity into the grid. And if you do it right and we streamline the process, it winds up being a way that we can also save money over the long term, just as we built and owned the hydro plants as a state. If we as a community, our community has a community solar project that we're participating in, if we participate in a community solar project, over the long term, we save money. We save money from day one, and we save money over the long term with a reduction in rates. To give you a sense of who's got some examples out there, Regeneron, the largest employer in the state, in the county, has solar all over the place, as you can see. We have affordable housing projects that are using these technologies. The former YMCA in Tarrytown that did fully electric, put solar on it, has a solar array, has a green roof, electric car charging stations, etc. We have schools doing this. We have other affordable housing projects doing this. We have a lot of people that are doing this type of thing. And when you take a look at doing on-site solar, if you haven't looked at it lately, and you could and you should, because there's still opportunities out there, you can save a lot of money and simultaneously give yourself better resiliency and affordability and keep your grid going when the grid is struggling, and it helps keep that grid up for everybody. So on-site solar, the returns are somewhere between 6 and 25% return on investment. We'll talk about that a little bit if you want more information about that and works for you. City of White Plains is doing it with carports. Mary Knoll Center is doing it with carports. So is Manhattanville College, IBM, Mary Knoll, a bunch of others have solar carports. And the reason why we're looking at carports is that in addition to putting stuff on the roof, which is the way most people think about solar, they think about putting on your roof. And if you can do it, it's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. But in addition, we have these parking lots throughout Westchester. And we took a look, and we've identified now 132 parking lots that have 5 acres or more of opportunity. And on those parking lots, that's 230 megawatts worth of power of 5-acre parking lots that we can have. Basically, we can double the amount of solar that we currently have in the county by going on solar parking lots just on the 5-acre parking lots and better. If we look at those other parking lots that are 1 to 5 acres, there's 1,500 of those. And if we did just those parking lots, that's another 580 megawatts, twice as much solar in the county as we currently have just on those parking lots alone. And when you take a look at all the different opportunity that's out there with solar parking lot carports, what we see is it's 800 megawatts worth of opportunities. It's $3.5 billion worth of construction. It's 25 to 35 years of energy cost savings for all these communities and individuals that participate in this. And it also, with battery storage, provides us resiliency. So when it helps keep the grid up, it makes it more reliable. But simultaneously, when the grid goes down, if we have battery storage built in, it gives us resiliency. So now we got places that we can go that help us stay powered even when we have a blackout or extreme weather events or other things going on. So one of our key priorities is solar parking lots for all those reasons. But as we said, solar needs to be paired with battery storage, and that's because, the sun doesn't shine all the time. So we need to deal with the fact that when the sun's not shining, we still have energy that we are needing and using. And that becomes really critical during the daytime, later hours in the daytime, but of course, overnight as well. So you need battery storage to get built in. When you take a look at battery storage, there's ways of doing that with large solar systems like this community solar system that makes a lot of sense to build in battery storage as part of that mechanism. But then simultaneously, there's other ways of doing it. And for those that can host a battery storage system in your home or small business, you're looking at savings of 5 to 25% on your electric bill by being able to have the sun power it or being able to charge it at night when energy is cheap and available and discharge it during the day when we need it. So there's small systems that are available for small businesses and homes. There's medium-sized businesses, which take up basically a parking spot that can be used to also power up all your systems. Or there's also the larger ones, which are much more intensive, obviously, and take up more space, but also deliver that key power when we need it. In Westchester, one of the great examples is Croton-on-Hudson's train station now. It's a 4 megawatt solar canopy system, solar carport system, and 3.5 megawatts of battery energy storage. It looks like this. It's pretty sweet. It gives covered parking to people who want to park there. And to give you a sense of some of the dollars that are out there, on the solar, it's generating $120,000 a year to the village. On the battery storage, $360,000 a year. So there's opportunities for all of us to save with our own battery storage system, or even to host a battery storage system, a small or medium one in small businesses, or a larger one if that's the possibility for your community. And then there's things called microgrids. And that's what happens when you take solar with battery storage and you combine it with EV charging, which is what Vail GMC in Bedford did. 75% reduction in their cost, 75 to 84%, 75% reduction in their peak demand, 84% cost reduction by being able to charge and take energy off the grid at night, let the solar charge the batteries, discharge it when they most need it. And they even had a very pretty thing done by the kids at SUNY Purchase. They did this whole art design, which is kind of neat because it doesn't have to be big and ugly and crazy. It could be actually kind of a neat little art piece, right? And then we have some other examples, even in our schools, right? So this last week, we had a school energy saving seminar where we brought schools together to talk about the energy saving possibilities for them and what we can do to help schools become leaders and save money. And Ardsley School is one of the examples we pointed out. They did a solar and battery storage system. To give you a sense, their credits, one school, $55,000, the middle school, $86,000 a year, the high school, $82,000 a year. So the school now, with these energy technologies, solar and battery storage, are generating nearly $250,000 worth of revenue that can get used for programs or capital or other expenses. So these are real dollar opportunities for all of us to take advantage of. If you haven't looked at it and you want to, let us know again on that sheet. But one of the things you should keep in mind is that new federal law changes were pretty dramatic. And in specific, this HR 1 bill, the so-called Big Beautiful Bill that was signed into law on July 4th, that impacts the timeframes, in particular for solar and battery storage and some of these other technologies. It also impacts what you can get from who and where is it coming from. And in particular, the key dates to keep in mind is that if you're thinking about a solar project at some point in the near future, you want to get started now. If you get started now before July 4th of 2026, you get that engineering done and you start with the construction process, you have until 2030 to finish the project and still get a 30% federal tax credit. If you start after July 4th, you'll have to complete it by the end of 2027. So not only do you have to start, but you'll have to complete it. There's other constraints that get in there, and that ability to complete, by the way, means you have to get the permission to operate from your utility, and that takes a while. So if you're thinking about solar, now is the time to think about it and do it and put it into action. The sooner you start, the more likely it is that you can get a 30% federal tax credit built into that project. And we can talk about that a little more if you guys want to talk about that. But one of the things that we also have to keep in mind is that municipalities are now passing bans and moratoriums on solar. And there's a map that we put together with some of our partners, Sustainable Westchester. And when you take a look at the county, you see that Mount Pleasant passed a ban on all battery energy storage systems, including residential systems. Same in Mount Pleasant and Mount Kisco. Mount Kisco, you can't have a battery storage system under the way the law is currently written. I think they didn't realize that, but you can't even have one in your home right now. And then Yorktown's banned all battery energy storage and community solar, except for 2 grant-parented projects that they're looking to do. That law is about to be on the books, but they're in the midst of talking about it. And we're urging everyone to talk to your legislators, let them know how you feel about that. Let them know that you want more solar, not less. One of the concerns that people have with battery storage is the potential of fire. Fire is always a concern, no matter what we do. It's a concern in every way, shape, or fashion. But just to keep in mind, the combustion engine cars that we drive every day, combustion means that it's exploding thousands of times to get those revolutions per minute. In our homes, if we have a gas or an oil or any sort of burning fossil fuel, same thing. We've got combustion going on that's creating carbon monoxide and other fire hazards, which is why when you take a look at fires, there's actually a lot more fires from gas and oil and those kinds of problems than there are from battery storage. But we're educating everybody about the new rules that are out there that make battery storage technologies very safe. They're very highly regulated. We have a whole fact sheet on battery energy storage, on the new state code, on what has to get done, how to make this safe. We're working with the county firefighters to get firefighters educated. We have fact sheets and storage pieces, and we're doing public education. We're going to be doing more with the county and with all firefighters. So if you're a firefighter out there and you're concerned about these technologies, please talk to us. Please talk to the county. We're happy to help educate you and involve you so that you understand these technologies and you understand how they're being constructed and monitored and maintained, and the fire protocol should something happen. And they're happening much less often. They're very rare actually right now because they're so well highly regulated and the opportunity has been developed. And again, you want information on any of this, just send us a note, sign up for this information request on the energy saving form. All right, so what can we do today? One of the other things we can is something called renewable diesel. And when we grow protein for all the different things to feed the world, we get more fat than we can eat, right? So if you take that fat and you process it, these byproducts can be used to make a high quality biomass-based renewable diesel. And to give you a sense of the potential impact of that, 75% of California's diesel transportation is now renewable diesel. 75% of California's diesel transportation is no longer fossil fuel, it's now renewable diesel. That opportunity is there for anybody that uses diesel for any equipment, any size equipment. You don't have to change your tanks. You don't have to worry about some of the issues in the past that hit bio-based fuels, specifically the coagulation and the cold hits. But basically, you could drop in any percentage into any tank, and it does the same exact thing as diesel. And in addition, it does the same exact thing for heating oil. And that becomes really important when we take a look because renewable diesel can get dropped in. It reduces your particulate emissions, it reduces your carbon emissions, and you don't have to change your infrastructure. You don't have to move to different infrastructure. You don't have to build anything. You don't have to retrofit anything. You can just drop this in for anybody that's using diesel or anyone that's heating with oil. You drop it in. And as we make the transition to electric vehicles, no matter what we talk about and see in the future, we know that at least 20 years, 30 years or more, at least half the diesel vehicles that are out there now are still going to be around. So this is a way to reduce emissions right away, no infrastructure changes, and we're urging everyone to think about it. If you're using diesel or if you heat with oil, the opportunity now is that there's 100,000 homes that heat with oil, 100,000 buildings in Westchester that heat with oil. We could drop in this renewable diesel. And if enough of us do it, we get the state to do certain things. In California, renewable diesel can be less price or about the same price as regular diesel. So we can even save some money. The more of us that do it, the more the prices will drop. And we'll be able to even heat our homes with 2/3 less carbon. We had the emissions to drive a Class 8 truck. We had a nonprofit organization, environmental organization, Cure 100, that did an analysis and found that if you move to renewable diesel today and you're driving a Class 8 truck, you're actually reducing emissions more than if we were using the current electric grid to supply an electric truck. How's that, huh? You can change to renewable diesel and have more environmental impact with a non-fossil fuel diesel product than going to full electric because the way the grid is right now. That'll change over time as we get more stuff into the grid and we get more clean electricity. But right now, it's a faster, better way of reducing emissions and reducing carbon and getting off of fossil fuels. Give you a sense, New York City, their fleet is now 67% reduction in fossil fuels, over 30 million gallons of renewable diesel being used by the New York City fleet. The county tested this at the airport, saved 17% per year on their renewable diesel fuel, on their diesel fuel by going to renewable diesel. And when we take a look around New York State, we see New York City is doing it. We're even doing it in the marine sector with the Staten Island Ferry and other ferries using it. The Office of General Service for New York State now has it on a state contract. We're seeing the University of Albany converting their heavy-duty fleet to renewable diesel. In Westchester County, we mentioned the airport, and the village of Tuckahoe is also looking at that. So if you're using diesel, we're urging you, especially if you have a fleet, all the municipal fleets, all the other fleets, to take a look and to use this technology. All right, so specifically, the Business Council is looking at 4 priorities this next year. 1, reduce peak demand. Everybody should be signing up for this grid rewards program or other demand response programs. It's a way to save money. It's a way to keep the grid going during these peak times, and we absolutely need people to do it. Save money, sign up right away, participate in a peak demand program. Second, fast track solar. Wherever we can put solar, we should do it on parking lots, on commercial flat roofs, on brownfields, on rights of way. Do it everywhere we can. Fast track it, streamline it, get out of this long process of getting all these permits and approvals. Get the permits and approvals, but have a fast track to get them swifter and faster without having to go through months and months and years of intense approval. And do the same for battery storage. Battery storage is now safer, more proven, and it saves us money, and it gives us a more reliable grid, and you can actually generate revenue for your business, your community by having these battery storage systems. We absolutely need them. It's a way of saving money. It's a way of being more reliable and resilient, and you can do that even if you don't have solar. Where there's cheap nighttime power, you can take the power during the night, deliver it during the day when it's more expensive during the peak times, and you can raise some revenue doing it as well. And then last but not least is we're urging everyone to take a look at and use, promote, and incentivize renewable diesel for our fleets and our oil heat customers. We're taking this message not just to Westchester, but all throughout the state. And so Westchester has some really interesting leadership, like the Senate Majority Leader, the second most powerful figure in the state, the Codes Chair in the Senate, the Environmental Conservation Committee Chair in the Senate, the Education Committee Chair in the Senate. And in the Assembly, similar, we have the Ways and Means Committee Chair, very powerful person, Energy Conservation Chair, the Health Committee Chair, the Science and Technology Chair, and then we have 4 other state legislators. The Business Council has met with them. We're going to keep meeting with them. We're going to urge them to do things as a state that could take us along in this direction to reduce our energy bills. And to just give you one quick final piece of this. Whoops. We have 9 different committees.
We have always been the group that have asked the tough questions. You always hear people talk about they should do something, right? Oh, don't you wish they would solve this problem? This is they.
Your organization has really taken this to a new level, and I want you to know this is a beacon really for our state and something that we very much need to replicate county by county across our state as well.
So thank you. I know I covered a lot. Hopefully this was helpful and useful. Again, let us know what energy saving information you want. You can click on that, take a picture of the URL, of the QR code, type out tinyurl.com, Chamber Energy Savings Response, or contact us on the BCW website, or you can email me directly. And thank you very much.
That was amazing. Yeah. Thank you. That was a ton of information. It was really fantastic. And I'm so glad you put in all those QR codes so people can get more. And I see Michael has his hand up, so we're going to go to him. You have a question, Michael?
Yes, it's my physical hand. As you notice, I didn't know how to do the little link here. But anyways, so I'm the president of the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce, and we have a lot of problems that or challenges in our village. One is flooding. And we just had something on the immigration situation where people are worried about ICE raids. I mean, there's a number of different things that we keep looking at and trying to help our business members wrap their heads around. But this kind of reminds me of that saying that winter is coming. This is something that will mess us all up. We're talking about this problem and bouncing from that problem and this challenge and that challenge. But Ron, how do we get our members to focus? What is your suggestion to get our membership to focus? What can we do as presidents of the chambers to help people wrap their heads around this, understand this, get involved.
So I think the first thing is that just about everybody is struggling with these higher utility costs as the rates keep going up, right? So anybody that's feeling that pain and that's reaching out to you and talking to you about how, the cost of energy is just killing them, clearly an opportunity to bring this up. Happy to come out to the various chambers and do events. The Clean Energy Action Coalition is going to have an energy conference in April, inviting everyone to come to that, participate, find out specifically. But in terms of getting the word to your members, happy to come out to any chamber and do a presentation and walk through stuff and have an interactive dialogue about all these different opportunities, ways to save money, have a positive impact, and keep that winter from overwhelming us as it comes, because it's coming.
You're welcome to Mamaroneck Chamber in December.
All right. Sounds
You
great.
know,
Looking forward to it.
perfect.
Like that.
I
Great.
think that is the way to, I think, thank you for asking that question, because I do think there is so much coming out, and I am leading another lunch and learn on Friday about ICE raids, because we
Oh,
know
great.
that's affecting a lot of our business owners. But I think what's so good about this presentation is that you've addressed several different issues, and people don't need to kind of take it all in. They can pick and choose what they can handle. And we have to just let the small businesses know that we're not trying to create more problems. We're trying to help them to stop problems before they're happening. And in the short term, they will save money as well. So it's not just, I think sometimes business owners hear, clean energy, environmental, and their immediate response is, this is going to cost me money. But to position it that this is going to save them money, and there's very little that they need to do, so that these programs exist that they don't know. And I think we at the county pride ourselves on trying to be the connectors for information. And it's things like this. I'm certainly not an expert in this, but if I can help bring the information out to the chambers, to the business improvement districts, then, I will do that. So in that vein, this has been recorded. I'm going to stop recording now. And